This episode hit me like a truck. Like, when I saw that Kaede scene when she was trying to build up the courage to get outside of the house, and she was holding on to Sakata, and as he was slowly walking, like, step by step, and when, she felt like she couldn't go any further at all, she's like, I can't do it anymore, stop. And when, he let go and he just walked away, and he saw the gradual slow motion, he just walked away, and then he turned around and she opened her eyes and realized that she was outside. I don't know how that scene was just so emotional to me. I don't know, just like, I'm not gonna lie, I may have had a few tears in my eyes while watching that scene for this episode. I was just like, holy crap, like, seeing someone like Kaede just, have the will to finally wanting to change herself, and she needed that slight little push from Sakata to be able to do it. It made me very happy to see. So let's get into what this episode is about. So as you already guessed, it is a Kaede arc we're getting into, which makes perfect sense like I talked about in my last episode review of Bunny Girl Senpai. I said one of the best ways probably to end off this season of, for this series, unless we ever get to season 2, is for Kaede to get out of her slump and allow her to be able to be happy. Because, it's kind of the whole reason why everything began in the first place. The reason why Sakata is like he is, to why his sisters hold up inside the house, to how he probably eventually even discovered Mai in the first place. It's all thanks to Kaede and the origin story of all of this. And so, concluding Kaede's problem, allowing her to be able to go outside and have fun, make friends, go to school, this is something that needs to be settled to give kind of like a proper conclusion, at the very least for the anime for the time being, until the movie comes out. Apparently there is a movie coming out sometime next year, so I am looking forward to it. I definitely do want to watch it if it is going to continue the events after, the anime. But saving that for later, though, Kaede, we've known for a long time now, since the very beginning of the story, that she is someone that she doesn't want to leave the house. She's a shut-in. She does not want to leave the house. And it's not because she just didn't want to work. It's not because she just didn't like school. It was because of her situation, how badly she was bullied, but also what happened to her body thanks to, adolescent syndrome. We know what happened to her, and we saw the scar that's even left on Sakata after the event. We know that she has went through a lot, and this arc is slowly starting to clarify some of the details that we were just not aware of, and seeing how, she has constantly throughout the start of the series struggling to try to change herself, it's a good thing. I feel like, everything that's happened up to this point, for instance, all the stuff with Mai, Takoga, etc., all the female characters that has entered into Sakata's life or entered into his home, if it wasn't for something like this happening, I don't think Kaede would have went out of her way to really try to change. If for one reason we can get from this is that what Kaede said in this episode. She's like, look, brother, I know for a fact I want you to marry someone, but, if you did, they would have to take me too, because if I'm living with you and I can't go outside, they're gonna obviously have to accept me as well. And she's like, I don't want that to be the reason why you won't be able to get with someone. She was basically saying, I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to be someone that's going to hold you back with trying to have a life with someone. That's what Kaede was trying to say, and it was a very emotional moment. It's kind of like she was very aware or self-conscious that if she stays like she is, she knows for a fact that her brother would never leave her or abandon her, but she knows if she stays like this, that her brother will never be able to move on and have a life of his own. And it was a very sad moment, and it really made me start thinking about Kaede's perspective and how she's been viewing herself and everybody around her since this series began. And you can tell that Sakata is very aware of this. Even before his sister mentioned in this episode, Sakata was obviously aware of what his sister was thinking, and you can see throughout the entirety of the series, he didn't really want to force her or shove her, for instance, to try to make her go outside and, have fun, be able to, talk on the phone, whatever. He has not tried to force Kaede in any way to really do something like this. In fact, this episode was the first time we really saw, Sakata go out of his way to try to help out Kaede, for instance, really just kind of giving her a shove on the back to allow her to step a few steps forward for she could eventually go outside and be happy, which we kind of see towards the end and until the final situation of the episode, which I'll get into. Kaede, she took a lot of courageous steps to change herself, and honestly, no words can really just, describe how good or amazing it is for Kaede to be able to walk outside and try to do something else besides being cooped up in her house. It's great because, number one, it allows her to finally experience life. Number two, it allows her to be able to finally move past her past. And number three, it allows her to stop depending always on her brother and be able to be independent and do things on her own. It's something that, needs to happen, and it's a very healthy thing to do. And so I really love Kaede's characterization / development that she was getting in this episode. Now, let's get into the little twist that was told to us at the end. Kaede, she doesn't remember. She has no memories of what happened in school, which this brings up a big question mark. I'm like, huh? And I started thinking about, I sat back and started thinking about the entire situation. When I finished the episode, I just leaned back in my chair and I was thinking, okay, so why is that? Why can't she remember anyone? I mean, obviously it has something to do with adolescent syndrome, but what is the real reason going on here? Now, the thing that came to my mind when I was thinking about this is okay, so if it's nothing supernatural, if it's not attached to adolescent syndrome, it could just be her blocking her memories. This is very similar to the events of kind of what has happened to Casca in Berserk. I'm not going to get into the finer details if you've never started it, but it's something that you do see in cases like this where someone has a very horrible past, and typically, sometimes some people's answers to the situation is to completely repress the bad memories and completely either falsify a new past or just completely forget about it entirely. And honestly, this is something that is very relatable to what I've been reading recently, web novel related. I'm not going to get into finer details of it. If you follow my Twitter, you'll know what I'm talking about. But basically, this is very reminiscent of certain things that's happened in a web novel I'm currently reading. But yeah, I will say, I am very, very interested in what's going on with Kaede, because I don't know if it has something to do with, like I said, the adolescent syndrome, and it completely wiped her memories, or if she's just repressing herself, repressing her memories because she just doesn't want to remember it. Because then that would make a lot more sense to why she's so scared to go outside. But we also need to factor another thing into, I was thinking about. Something we need to think about is that even if she doesn't remember, we have to remember that at the very least, we do know that she is very aware of how much damage that her body took. For instance, when she had the adolescent syndrome attack her and she was in the hospital, what happened to her brother, obviously she knows about this. Even if she doesn't remember anything from her past, she would know about the injuries that she had on her body. We know that she has, PTSD. We've seen every time the phone rings or whatever, it shocks her. So we know PTSD is there. So we can kind of give an extension of that and assume that most likely she's just blocking her memory. See, she is willingly doing that. It's nothing to do with supernatural themes or anything like that. It's just her trying to block it because she just does not want to remember it. And so I think one of the bigger ways for her to finally overcome her past is to either face it or just completely say, I never want to remember it, and just continue moving on with her life and create new memories. So one or the other is going to have to happen, but most likely one of the healthiest things to do would be to face your past and try to move past it. And I think that's what Kaede is probably going to have to figure out before this, arc is said and done. But okay, let's get into the Sakata and Mai stuff. So, at the beginning of the episode, we have Mai, talking in front of everyone, a live audience, talking on TV, basically saying, yes, I have a boyfriend, I am sorry for, causing this, dispute and all that when we're filming and stuff, I apologize, but basically, throughout the entire scene, I thought it was going to be a lot bigger than it was. When you look at the end of the last episode, and you saw how there was pictures being taken, and if you know anything about idols in Japan, or just in general when it comes to celebrities, usually there's no privacy. Nobody has privacy, and usually can cause a lot of stink, a lot of problems. And when it comes to Japan, when it comes to idols, they have a very different type of way when it comes to contracts. Sometimes they're forbidden to have relationships and all that because it can really complicate things. The fan base could get very angry and go after the other individual that's in love, for instance Sakta, and that's what I was assuming was going to happen this episode, and it could still potentially happen. That's not saying it won't. However, the way Mai handled it, I think, in a way, kind of probably got most of that off of Sakuta's back. For instance, I don't think it was the line of her saying, please don't go out of your way and, you know, go into his privacy, record him, take pictures. I don't think that's what stopped people from, you know, really being scummy and doing that. I think what really changed everybody's mind was the fact that Sakuta was the one that got Mai back into, you know, showbiz. So, you know, gave her the motivation to even be there in the first place. So I think many people that probably were against Sakuta at that moment probably was like, whoa, so this dude allowed our Mai-chan to come back on TV. That's probably what they're thinking, like, yo, this is great. So, you know, good for that man. Good for Sakuta doing that. So I think that if there was anyone that was doubting Sakuta, thinking like he was using her, or if he was just malicious or something, I think what Mai said in that moment probably removed everybody's doubts, besides probably a select few. I do think this will become a problem in the future, but not at this time because of what Mai said. However, I do think there's going to be individuals that are going to be stalking Sakuta. I do think there's going to be a moment to where when Sakuta finally hangs out with another girl trying to help them with their problems, someone's going to take a snapshot and then they're going to say, oh, you know, Sakuta's cheating on Mai. I could already see something like that happening. It's just so obvious that something like that's going to happen. I'm not saying I want to hate the series if it does that. I'm just saying it's obvious because, I mean, even if Mai and Sakuta's relationship is very, very strong and we know it's going to be very hard to break them apart, I doubt, you know, people on the outside of, you know, the relationship are going to be able to understand how they feel about each other, and they're going to try to break them up, cause conflict to, you know, get the views or whatever, so I definitely see that happening. But, yeah, that's pretty much this episode of Bunny Girl Senpai. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, how you felt about this week's episode. Did you enjoy it? Did you hate it? How do you feel about the stuff that happened to, you know, Kaede? How do you feel about the entire situation with walking outside, how emotional that scene was? Did you get teary-eyed? Did you cry? Or, you know, is your heart calloused, you know? Okay, that's a little bit mean, but, you know, you get my point. Anyways, I love you guys. If you enjoy my content, you know, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And if you want to get notified for whatever upload a video, please click the bell icon down below. And with that, Chibi out.